It's time to ignite your soul and unlock your full potential. Join us on Beneath the Helmet, the podcast exploring firefighters' health and wellness. Hosted by retired Fire Chief Arjuna George, our podcast is the perfect place to start your journey towards becoming the best version of yourself. So come on, let's join the conversation and find out what sets your soul on fire.
All right, welcome back, everyone. This is a very special episode number 50, episode 50 of Beneath the Helmet. Bit of a milestone. I have a very unique opportunity today to actually get interviewed by a close friend of mine, a fellow podcaster, a fellow coach, and just an all-around amazing human being. Today, I got a chance to sit down with podcaster and fellow coach, Cindy Thompson. So be sure to check out Cindy's podcast. She's interviewed me a couple times, and it was an opportunity to share my story through resilience. She has a great podcast called The Resilience Project. I highly recommend checking that out. She interviews people from all over the world, telling their stories about resilience. So just kind of finished my first year podcasting, episode number 50. And I thought a great way to celebrate that would be to share a little bit about my journey going through podcasting. And Cindy was kind enough to sit down with me for an hour and kind of pick my brain on everything podcasting, my new business, my life, everything like that. So I hope you get a glimpse into behind the scenes of what Beneath the Helmet's all about, a little bit about my mission, my passion, and a little bit more about me as a person. So sit back, relax, enjoy episode number 50, celebrating just over a year of Beneath the Helmet podcast show. Until next time, stay well.
Arjuna, thank you. I'm so glad that I get to be part of this conversation and celebrating your 1-year anniversary of Beneath the Helmet. I feel like this is an important journey that you've been on and part of your encore career, but continuing your meaningful work that you've always done in your career. And I'm just so pleased that I get to be part of this conversation.
Yeah, it's looking back on the year, it's like, wow, that's a lot has transpired in a year. So I'm very grateful to have you kind of take a sneak peek into the background of the last year. So I appreciate that.
I'm excited. I feel like this is such a privilege. And to learn what's been showing up for you along the way. Before we jump into, maybe what you've been discovering, can you share with us what inspired you to start the podcast Beneath the Helmet? Can we start there? Because I'd love to hear where that spark started.
Well, after 24 years in the fire service, I kind of hit a wall and had to make a very tough decision to retire from the fire service way before I was planning to. And in my whole process of kind of burnout recovery and finding out what's next through coaching, I kind of had a clearer picture about what my future could look like. And I really didn't think I was going back to the fire service. I didn't think that I was going to be the same kind of person that I used to be anyways. But really what sparked the podcast was the fact that I felt like I had such a rich connection in the fire service across the world. I had a pretty tight network where I was, if you mention my name across Canada, most people are going to, in the fire service, are going to say, oh, I've heard of him, or I know him, or I've read something about him. And I really didn't want to lose that connection that I had built over those 24 years. And I was like, how can I still be a part of the fire service? How can I still contribute to the fire service? How can I still remain in the loop? And the only thing I thought of was writing, coaching, and podcasting. And podcasting, I really wanted to have a niche for the fire service. I truly felt that there was a lot of podcasts out there that were either about mental health, or they're about physical health, or they're more about the operations of firefighting. I was struggling, and there's quite a few out now, but I was struggling at first to find a very holistic podcast, one that covered all those bases. So leadership, self-development, mental health, physical health, wellness in general. And so I thought, well, if I can't find it, I'll make it. So that was kind of the birth of Beneath the Helmet. And when I was thinking about the story itself of Beneath the Helmet, the name pretty much from day one has stuck with me. And the idea that kind of I see in my mind is everything beneath the helmet. So it's the mind, body, and spirit of being an elite firefighter. So everything that's encased underneath that helmet. And yeah, it's been a blast. And like I said, I didn't want to lose my connections that I'd kind of built over the years and the relationships that I'd built. But ironically, they've 10x'd, which is amazing. So the amount of connections that I've built that were never there when I was the fire chief are now there. So
Mm.
that's pretty special.
Yeah, so for it to grow, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I get the impression that when you're in the fire service, it's like a brotherhood or a family, or, these people become the people that get you because you're going through that as first responders together, that you didn't want to stretch too far away from that because that you don't want to walk away from your family.
Oh yeah, 100%. And definitely it comes with guilt as well. So sometimes even when I was going through my burnout recovery, I felt guilty that I wasn't just going back to work, that I wasn't just kind of putting back that uniform and doing it all over again. Um, but the other side of me said, no, you don't, you deserve this rest. You deserve this opportunity. You did 24 years. That's nothing to not be proud of. That's, 24 years of service. And really it felt more like 50 years of service because I put my heart and soul into it.
Mm.
So yeah, I would definitely, I would agree with that for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I hear you're caring for the people and
Oh yeah.
wanting to honor what you've been developing and learning over the years, but also the learning that happened once you retired. I feel like there you learned so much about yourself personally that you could then share with others. Tell us about that.
Yeah, you're bang on there. That's a great question because I truly felt that I spent my whole life of service in all my jobs that I've done. And I'm very proud of that. But on the flip side, I also forgot about myself through that process. I talked about mental health in our fire department. I talked about wellness in our department, but I obviously was not paying 100% attention to my own well-being. So since retirement, that's been number one on my radar. Number one learning lesson that I pretty much take in every single day is to know more about myself. And I've never been more authentic, more vulnerable, more understanding of what's going on inside my body, my mind. I just have so much more awareness about myself than I ever have before. And I owe that kind of to coaching, to therapy, to having just the time, the space to think and kind of almost be with myself and kind of meditate on um, those feelings that maybe I hadn't felt in a long, long time. Right. So I'm a bit of an emotional stuffer. I've never really expressed emotions. I like anger is one of my ones that I think is the most toxic one for me in the way that I really don't express anger. Very few people ever see me angry. Very few people ever see me get frustrated or yell or scream. But all that anger, that very toxic, heavy emotion, it can be a very good emotion to have if used in the right way. But for me, I just bottled it up. And when I started to feel that frustration, it was scary, but also kind of liberating at the same time that I could actually feel that and process it more than
Mm.
more than I ever could for sure.
Well, and there's so much there because I hear what you've been learning about yourself and at the same time still wanting to help others. So what have you been learning about yourself since doing the podcast? Like this, I feel like this journey has just continued.
Yeah, well, I think it's helped me hone my listening skills. I always feel like I've been a good listener, and coaching is obviously 10x that as well. But even podcasting, once again, you're just super, super laser focused into what they're saying while you're interviewing somebody. And sometimes I get so focused that it's kind of like I'm in tunnel vision. All I hear is just the person in front of me and nothing else. So Yeah, I think I've learned a lot about listening and being with people. Um, Very similar to yourself. My presence is kind of my superpower. Um, I I've been told this several times that just me sitting with somebody can make them feel vulnerable, open, honest with themselves, and share stories that they've never told anyone in the world. And some of the podcast episodes I've had have been where people have said, "Well, I've never actually shared this, but I tried to end my life on this day. I've never shared this with people, but such and such and such." So it's kind of like, wow, that's to be able to be a person who can sit in front of somebody on a Zoom call across the world and make them feel safe enough to be vulnerable on screen and then share that with the world through a podcast platform.
Mm.
Kind of fills my bucket for sure every time that happens. And I just enjoy, like, it fills my bucket once again. And yeah, there's the cup, but I have a bucket that like to fill.
Okay.
So my bucket, having conversations with people that are more meaningful than, little side coffee chats around the water cooler. I'm not a big person on small chat. I kind of have challenge with having just small little conversations that don't mean much. But when you get into an hour long deep conversation, that's a game changer, and that fulfills my life as well as hopefully allowing them to, share their story fulfills their life as well, or what they want to share with the world. And then there's lots of things that I've learned about patience, scheduling. The whole editing nightmare of podcasting is you got to be a black belt in patience for editing because that's a grueling task. But I've streamlined a lot of that, so that's kind of helped me because I know that the podcasting and coaching, both the two kind of worlds that I'm in right now, are very high burnout hobbies or occupations. So I'm very, very careful that I don't burn out. I'm sure I'm going to go through peaks and valleys of feeling burnt out, but I feel like I have the tools now to kind of identify that a little faster. And I want to make podcasting, coaching, everything. I want to make that sustainable for years to come. And I think that's only possible by balance. Like, honestly, I right now I keep to my podcast episodes every 2 weeks. I would love to do weekly, and maybe one day I'll get there. But for me, weekly would put me into burnout. I think that would put
Mhm.
too much pressure on myself to get an episode out of every week. The quality may be good, might be lower quality, but the pressure alone of doing that every week, I'm not quite there yet. The pressure's there for every 2 weeks already, so I think condensing that would be an interesting scenario to go through. So I feel very kind of ready for everything I'm doing, and I feel like I have the tools to now flourish in that versus, um, podcasting is one of those things that many people don't get past episode 12, I think it is, or something like that. So I feel kind of blessed that I've almost tripled that now and still feel like I got a massive list of guests that want to be on the show. Uh, Almost too long because I feel bad for some of the guests that are been waiting for months and months to have their episode on the air.
That's a great testimony.
It is for sure, 100%. It makes me feel good, but on the flip side, it makes me feel bad that they have to wait for that story to be released to the world, right? So,
Mhm. Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when I hear you speak about leaving the fire service in its traditional sense and that long career you had there, it makes me think about so many of my guests have spoken about how they don't regret going through that adversity that they experienced in order to get to the other side and learn what they did about themselves and to maybe hit reset and do it very differently than they were living. And so I'm curious if you've looked back on that season, not that we want anybody to go through burnout in the way that you did, but I wonder if you reflect on that season as almost a gift or a blessing. I'm curious how you see that now.
oh, 100% a gift. 100% a gift. There was dark days, there was challenges, there was a lot of stress and probably physical damage to my body, honestly, through, I still have high cortisol levels. I still have, a lot of things that are out of whack in my body. They're starting to balance, but my body took a beating through burnout, which some might think it's not really a physical thing, but your body definitely goes through some changes when you're going through extreme burnout. But through all that, through the dark days, through the changes in, my health, I wouldn't change it, wouldn't trade it, wouldn't, there's just zero, um, negative thoughts about it. It's 100% a gift because I wouldn't be what I'm doing right now if I did not go through that process. I wouldn't have the skill set of going through burnout, managing through it, and having the story to tell after it of how to maneuver, how to navigate yourself through burnout. I think going through burnout is different for everyone, but there is some key tools that people can use that pretty much would work universal for burnout recovery. So now I have the chance to share that. And once again, that fills me up. It gives me purpose that I'm able to maybe help somebody else get out of burnout, or hopefully more than that is to prevent burnout from happening more often than it does. Um, yeah, so I truly see it as a gift. I even developed one of my key workshop uh, presentations is called the 7 Gifts of Burnout. And
Mm.
it's my 7 gifts that I got from burnout that I want to share with the world. Um, it's powerful to me because it kind of reinforces that it's a gift versus, a detriment or I was cursed or something like that. I was truly, I was meant to go through that, I think.
Like a wake up call, right? And I'm curious, if you could go back and say something to that guy who was hanging on by his fingernails, maybe uh, feeling committed, because I can hear the loyalty you felt to the fire service, the commitment to the people you were working with, your colleagues, and you wouldn't have been there if it wasn't meaningful to you. But at the same time, I can hear some insight and wisdom as to what you might have been feeling and not willing to let go of. So, what would you say to that guy now in hindsight?
Hmm. Several things. I would say listen to your body because your body is very wise. It tells you a lot of things that we ignore. I think if I listened to my body, I would have maybe taken a break and it wouldn't have been a career ending break. It would have been a couple weeks or a month or whatever that looks like. It would have been a break and I would maybe be back in the fire service again. So that's definitely one is listen to the body. The body's got tons of wisdom that we need to pay attention to. And honestly, I think going to counseling, getting a coach earlier would have been very beneficial. I think both of those, I had a therapist. Well, I have several therapists that I kind of use in different areas, but I didn't see them on a regular basis. I used them when 911, when there was an emergency. And now I use it as maintenance. So I really want to, that's what I would tell myself is, make that phone call your therapist, get an appointment. Maybe not going through crazy turbulent times right now, but let's prepare yourself for that time.
Mm.
And then coaching, I think coaching would have helped me because it really, what burnt me out, there's a lot of factors that burnt me out, but one of the key ones was I felt like a lone soldier at the fire station because I was the only manager of 60 people. I felt very isolated, the cliche about feel lonely at the top.
Yeah.
But when you're sole by yourself, like you have nobody to talk to, like I have, confidants and colleagues at the fire station that were either in the union or as a volunteer, and I could chat with them. But there's certain things I had to keep at a certain level, and that was very challenging because I think I was making decisions in a bubble, and that put a lot of stress and pressure on me to make those decisions in a bubble. And
Mhm.
a lot of them were life and death situations or very big financial or political decisions. And making that in isolation is very challenging and puts a lot of pressure on yourself for sure.
And you shouldn't have to, right? Like I think about radical interdependence and reaching out and not having to carry that load on your own and
Hmm.
knowing that there are options out there that you know of now, but there was something in you that felt like you had to handle it alone.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That was kind of my, I guess, the negative side of how I was talking to myself, was that this is your job. This is your role. You're supposed to work here 24/7. You're supposed to be at every event. As a fire chief, they're looking at you to be at every call. I just put a lot of expectations on myself. Maybe the public had the same expectations. Maybe the fire service did. Maybe my board of trustees did, but I'm not sure. But I definitely know I did, 100%. And that's a lot of weight to carry for sure.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like it's so cool that you get to now help in a different kind of way in a broader community. Like you were making a difference in your community on Salt Spring Island and your team and those 60 people that were direct reports, perhaps. But I feel like stepping away has given you this broader opportunity through your writing, through the podcast, as you said, to reach more people and help in a different kind of way, but still look after your family in a way, the family of fire service providers, first responders, and to build them up and support them in a new way now.
Yeah, I definitely the local family, I guess you could say, of the fire service is, near and dear to my heart. I love those firefighters, more than anything. But yeah, like you mentioned, the extension of that family has now gone across North America and actually even to Australia and UK, which I had connections with, but now I actually have brothers and sisters in those countries, right? So yeah, 100%. Sorry, I forgot where we were there.
Okay. Well, I was just honoring, it wasn't really a question.
Yes.
I was just kind of
Okay.
honoring
Yep.
that you're now able to help in a new way that you
Yes.
maybe
Yeah.
couldn't
Right.
have imagined there. That it's you just keep kind of building into it, staying true to your mission and your vision for helping maybe prevent other people from going through burnout like you did, and for bringing in guests who can speak on different elements of it, not just yourself, but others and share their stories as well. Would that be fair?
Yeah, I think the podcast really is born around an interview style. I do plan to do a bit more solo episodes just for people to get a little bit more of an insight into what I do and how I show up. But I love the fact that I can I call it curating stories for people where I can provide a space, a platform for people to share their experience and not about war stories or, just negative. I want people to come on the show who want to tell their story, but provide tools and a way out of the suffering or the challenges that they were facing and not just war stories. I want people to walk away with some tools, some techniques, some ideas, some concepts that will make them thrive in life. That's my goal for sure.
Mhm.
So I hope to do that with myself as well as uh, having guests on the show, which is, I love having guests on the show, 100%. It's really opens my eyes up to their experiences as well. The amount of stuff that I learn after every episode is amazing, right? So
Mhm.
Um, there's always a couple nuggets in there for them to share with me that I'm like, "Oh, I never knew that," or "That's interesting to see it that different light or different perspective." Yeah, it's very enriching.
Oh, that's cool. I love that. Well, and on that note, I'm curious, you've now met several people all over that are now following you and reading your book and listening to your podcast. What is one thing about Arjuna that might surprise people that they don't know?
Aha, nice one. Good question. Um,
I want a nugget. I want a gem that is going to surprise people.
in my book, I pretty much told all my dirty secrets, so
Come on, there's got to be something.
let me think here for a second. Well, I guess, one that I don't know if I said this or not, but I'm sure people have seen this because part of burnout was the anxiety that I developed. Never in my life up until maybe the last 5 years in the fire service did I feel anxiety. It was a totally foreign feeling to me. And that's still with me today. I have tools to control it a bit better. I have tools to manage it. But really what I'm seeing is that I might look very, very confident on the outside, but inside I'm stressed.
Mm,
Um, Not all the time,
yeah.
but when I say performing, I mean going on stage and doing a workshop or doing a keynote or even a podcast kind of elevates that. I track all my, body
Okay.
biodynamics on my ring that I have this aura ring.
Oh, oh,
And
interesting.
you can see when you're doing an episode, your blood pressure goes up or your pulse rate goes up or, um, not as much doing podcasting. And I kind of feel like I want to do more of the keynotes, but on the
Mhm.
flip side, I know that's also an area that doesn't fill my bucket up as much. I prefer workshop style where I build a relationship with the people versus going there for an hour speaking and then leaving.
Mm,
It fills my bucket and it kind of feels, I just feel like I give more value to them in, 4 hours, 8 hours versus a 1 hour speech.
mhm.
So that's probably something, probably people think that I enjoy that. And I do it because I want to share the message. I want to share my story, but it's not really something I enjoy.
Mhm. And I
That,
get the
that could
impression.
bite me in the butt one day, but
Well, and that's good that you're honest with yourself and you're at a point in your career where you can do more of what you love. And there might be some building blocks that you're willing to do some of that, but maybe not all the time. So I can hear you kind of checking in on how much of that you feel you are have capacity for. And meanwhile, you're at a stage in your career where you can just do all those things that you love the best. Because I know you love
totally.
to write as well, right?
Yeah,
So
100%.
having time for that too. Yeah. So, maybe one final question I have, Arjuna, is if you could have one guest, any guest on your podcast, who would you like to have on that maybe feels out of your reach, or maybe it seems like you're dreaming big, but who is somebody you would love to have on?
David Marquette.
Tell me
So
more.
David Marquette, never met him, but I followed his work online. I've read all his books, and his heart-led, human-led leadership style is something that really resonates with me. And he did it in a submarine in the U.S. Army or U.S. Navy, I guess it would be. So kind of similar to the fire service, where he was kind of the lone ranger bringing human leadership into the military. Very, very different atmosphere. And I kind of really resonated with that. And that's probably, I don't know, good 10 years old, that book. And it still resonates to this day how much value I got out of that one book. Um, and watching his podcasts and his TED Talks and stuff like that. But yeah, I'd love to have him on the show, pick his brain because everything that he stands for and what he did really resonates deeply with me for sure.
Mm. Will you call me and let me know if I missed that episode when you get him on?
I'll tell the world when I get him on.
Okay, I'll celebrate with you. Love that. Well, Arjuna, I am so excited that you are going to continue to do this work in all capacities, your writing, your speaking, your workshops. But this podcast has a special way of reaching people all over the world. And what a privilege for them to be able to hear and learn from you and from your guests. And I hope that you'll continue to do it as long as it still fills that bucket for you. So I wish you the best. Thank you for letting me be part of this 1 year anniversary. And it feels like a privilege to be able to share this moment with you.
Oh, I couldn't, yeah, it's hard to believe that it's been a year. Yeah, time flies, but wow, what a way to celebrate it with you today. That was very special. So thank you.
My honor. Thank you for letting me be part of it. Thank you,
Awesome.
Arjuna.
Thank you so much. Awesome. Thank you.
All right, that's a wrap, my friend.
Thank you for tuning in to Beneath the Helmet. We hope that this podcast has provided you with valuable insights into the world of firefighters' health and wellness. Remember, caring for your physical, mental, and spiritual well-being is crucial to achieving optimal performance. Join us next time on Beneath the Helmet for more inspiring conversations. Until then, stay well.